The first episode of Light and Magic, the docuseries about industrial light and magic, premiered on Disney Plus today. I was lucky enough to get the screeners to the entire series, so I've seen it all, and I have to tell you, it's awesome. It's directed by Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote some movies you may have heard of, like The Empire Strikes Back, Raiders of the Lost Ark, The Force Awakens, Solo, and more, and he takes us through the company's creation and trial by fire working for the original Star Wars all the way to the present day. And it is so much fun to watch. I'm not going to get into spoilers here. I won't be talking about some of the most emotional or surprising moments, but also a lot of this is just history. It's a docuseries, so I'm not going to be that careful, but still, this is your warning. If you're a Star Wars fan, and if you're watching this channel, I think that's a fair assumption, it is very Star Wars-centric. If you're a mega Star Wars fan, and you've read or watched a lot of behind-the-scenes material on the films, I will actually warn you that the first two episodes cover a lot of familiar ground. If you've read The Making of Star Wars or the Star Wars Archives, you probably know about George Lucas's childhood and the car crash he got into when he was in high school. I've read that story more times than I can count, but hearing about it straight from George's mouth adds new dimension to it. And what's more is that while I'm very familiar with the names John Dykstra, Dennis Muren, Phil Tippett, and so on, letting the spotlight shine on them for 6 episodes was fascinating, because I didn't know much about their childhoods and how they got into movie making, how all their stories converged in this one warehouse working on this one weird space fantasy movie, and getting to hear their thoughts on how they wound up changing filmmaking forever was the best. Like I said, a lot of the stories about the first Star Wars in particular were familiar to me, but I was completely enthralled the entire time. A lot of that probably has to do with Lawrence Kasdan's direction and interviews. He's interviewing his friends and people he's known for years, so there is a very conversational feel to the whole thing. And I really love that he doesn't shy away from asking about the tough times, the conflict felt between George Lucas and John Dykstra, for example, or the frustration of classic model makers and stop-motion animators keeping up with an industry that's rapidly changing, and not only that, but it's changing because of their own actions and how great their previous work was. I'm a channel that is very wrapped up in Star Wars lore, but Light and Magic is an amazing reminder that the franchise is so much more than that. George Lucas changed the way movies were made every single time he made a new Star Wars movie. He blew audiences' minds with A New Hope, then ILM one-upped everything with The Empire Strikes Back, and then they one-upped themselves again with Return of the Jedi, and then they kept making advancements outside of Star Wars until George felt like technology was ready so he could finally realize his entire vision on screen with the prequels, and he changed movie making again by going all digital. We hear about how revolutionary the man was time after time, but it's so great to see how he and all the people at ILM actually pulled it off in incremental steps, how each movie brought with it new change, and then how that change was often resisted, which is kinda cool since there are a lot of Star Wars stories about new, rebellious generations changing the status quo, and the resistance that always comes with that from people who are set in their ways. But the Clone Wars says adaptation is the key to survival. Even within ILM itself, there was some hesitance from people who were there with the company at its start, now having to accept that the industry they revolutionized in the 70s was being revolutionized again by the next generation. It's so interesting to watch, and again, I applaud the effort to show that struggle through metamorphosis. They don't pretend everything at ILM was slip and slides and hot tub parties all day, every day for decades. We get a full range of emotions in this piece. Thrills, happiness, sadness, wistfulness. Even as someone born in the late 80s, I found myself yearning for days gone by that I wasn't even here for. And I do think I enjoyed learning about that era a little more with the model making and the motion-controlled cameras and the stop motion. And not just the Star Wars stuff, but seeing them problem-solve effects on movies like Poltergeist was great. I do think it's cooler seeing all the different tools and techniques they used back then, just because these days we have kind of a catch-all answer of just, a computer did it. I had a moment watching Light and Magic where I yelled, "That's a f***ing matte painting?" I won't say what it is, I'll just say I thought it was a set. If you think you know what I'm talking about, put it in the comments. I'm interested to see who knows. But that's not to diminish the work of computer animators and modelers, because I still have those moments of surprise to this day. I remember watching the gallery episodes for the first season of The Mandalorian and going, that's the f***ing volume? All visual effects artists, whether they make models and animation by hand or by computer, are magicians. It's just kinda strange to know that I can make a lightsaber in After Effects right now. I can also make an X-Wing fly across the screen, no problem. I made the hyperspace introduction to my videos in like an hour. Computers have demystified the illusion a little bit, but that's also kind of the point. It is amazing that we can do all these things. I'm a YouTuber right now because George Lucas was sick of editing film and he knew there must be a better way to do it digitally. And now we have nonlinear editing. We can edit on our phones now. And George's push into digital filmmaking helped there too. George Lucas and everyone at ILM, their work helped bring filmmaking and creativity into the hands of everyone. So now we have insane people who are able to make videos about the movies they made 45 years ago. That's crazy. Light and Magic is heartfelt and inspirational and educational, and I had a blast watching it. It wasn't something I was planning on covering on this channel, to be honest, but the very first episode had me hooked, and I was enthralled the entire time. I learned a lot about film history I didn't know before. I learned a lot about Star Wars I didn't know before. Not only that, but there is a ton of behind-the-scenes footage that, at the very least, I don't remember. I was shocked at all the archival footage they had from the production of A New Hope. I think that alone is reason enough for every Star Wars fan to give Light and Magic a shot. But if you need one more reason, I think it's an excellent reminder of all the people that go into making a movie. Like I said, I'm a lore-focused person. I love the Star Wars universe to death. I soak in new stories, and I like to see how they fit into the larger picture. I love it when things connect, and I scowl when lore doesn't always line up perfectly. But expanding upon Star Wars lore is just one part of why a Star Wars movie ever gets made. I'm not saying that's not important, but I am saying it's just one piece of the pie. The best Star Wars movies, and now series, have balanced, heartfelt stories and characters with new lore and planets and creatures and ships and all that stuff, with a drive to innovate and elevate filmmaking and help inspire the next generation to tell their own stories or to develop their own innovations. Light and Magic gives a face and a voice to the people who made Star Wars what it is today. People who had no idea what an X-Wing or a Death Star or a pod racer was until they created it. And to take it a step further, the visual effects artists are just one department of several. Sometimes Star Wars fans, myself included, can get so caught up in the fantasy world that we forget the amazing real people that brought it all to life. That's what watching Light and Magic gave to me. It humanized Star Wars and several other movies. It showed me the joy and also the sadness that comes in this business. It made me grateful to the people who created the trench run I love so much instead of just being grateful to George Lucas alone. That's why I think every Star Wars fan should watch Light and Magic. It helped me expand my own idea of what Star Wars fully is. Also, there's a behind-the-scenes shot of George Lucas dancing with Max Rebo that I will treasure forever. But that's it for today. Let me know what you thought of the first episode of Light and Magic in the comments if you've seen it. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.